Boy, just chock full of fun things to chat about today. As a matter of fact, me and young Sam Roberts were just discussing the wonderful situation in England.
Oh, my God.
In London, England there, where a blood-soaked killer talks to the little camera after he hacks a soldier to death with a meat cleaver and a big butcher knife.
He's not running away. He's not. There's no manhunt.
No.
He's still holding the murder weapon.
He's holding it. His hands are coated with blood. And he's very calmly carrying on a little conversation, giving his whole view on what he did and what he needs to do right there to a camera. And here's my take on this. I don't think it's any surprise. I don't think I'm going to be venturing off into any uncharted Anthony territory here. I think if you listen to the show for 10 minutes, you probably know my whole take on this. This will happen when civilized cultures allow savages to invade their countries under the guise of this diversity, under the guise that different cultures coming into a country is always a good thing. It's been presented that way all the time. It's just this great thing to have varying cultures mixing together to make a country even better, adding their different flavors of life and opinions and cultures to their countries. No, it's not. And they always bring up the good old days. The early days of this country, the United States of America, and how wonderful the immigration was and how it improved our nation. And it did, because the immigrants were coming from civilized nations. They were leaving the fact that they couldn't get work, religious persecution, political persecution. But the countries they were coming from were pretty much on par culturally with the countries they were going to. But they wanted to better themselves, and they saw America and other free nations as a place to go to use their intelligence, their skills, to make a better life for themselves. And in doing that, they built up the country. A lot of engineers and machinists from Germany, people of Italian descent, very good in the construction business. And all these people from these civilized nations came here, built a great country, and improved their own lives for them, their children, and whatnot. Now you fast forward up to nowadays, and the same people talk about immigration now and this Muslims coming over and people from third world countries coming, and they talk about it like, well, that's the same thing that happened back in the old days. No, it's not. Now you're getting third world nations shipping people over here who have no clue what it's like to live in a civilized nation, who have no skills that can help this country, and they come here for the handout, the freebie.
You mean that country?
Yes.
England.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about the United States and England, like, you know,
yeah.
They're two civilized nations.
So where was this guy from?
He was from Nigeria, apparently. Mm-hmm. You know, the place where they give away millions and millions of dollars to people if they just give their bank account number over to them.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. Right. They're a very generous nation, Nigeria. So this guy is from Nigeria, and he decides for Allah, he's going to hack apart a soldier. So he does just that. What he's doing is taking his culture, which is the way they settle disputes in places like Nigeria and Mogadishu, Somalia, and Rwanda and whatnot, and bringing that wonderful, diverse culture to a civilized nation like England. And in the streets, right there in the streets of jolly old England, we watch somebody getting killed like they get killed on a regular basis in these savage nations.
But so you're saying you think like we should landlock Nigeria?
No, I'm just saying that they really have to take a look at who they're letting into civilized nations. Let them live their life and culture like they do in parts of Nigeria and Somalia and Rwanda and the Congo and many other wonderful nations in Africa and the Middle East and these places where they decide that hacking people apart is just a great form of justice.
But at the risk of sounding like a bleeding heart, what about the people who are in Nigeria that don't want to be hacked apart, and so they want to leave?
Well, you know what? That's your fucking problem now to deal with that's your country. So fucking rise up, do whatever you need to do.
But what if it's like just me? Like, what if I was born in Nigeria and I'm like, I gotta get out of here. People are hacking people apart. I just want to go to England where I can walk down the street and not be hacked up.
Let me impart to you a little analogy on that situation.
Okay.
Let's say your pal Anthony's sitting at the blackjack table, right? And Lady Luck not quite shining on me that day. Next to me, there's a guy, holy shit, he can't lose. Blackjack, 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 son of a bitch. I look over at him and I go, but what about me? I'm in this shitty seat.
Right.
You're in the good seat. I want to come over and sit in your seat. Sorry, it's called luck of the draw sometimes.
Yeah, but that's not something. That's tomorrow you might be in the lucky seat.
Exactly.
But I'll still be stuck in Nigeria.
And then it's my turn when I'm in the shitty seat to try to change my luck around, not use you and fuck your good luck up to try to change mine.
But if I'm stuck in one of these countries and I'm aware enough to say this is not how people should live, I have to do a political uprising? I can't just leave?
Yeah.
That
that's
sucks.
pretty much what I'm fucking saying here.
That's horrible.
It sucks for the good people that are there, but you know what? If it keeps people that hack people apart off the streets of civilized nations, you know what? Then we got to do it. This guy here, and we were talking about this earlier, this guy here thinks that's fine. He hacked a guy apart, walked up to a camera, and pretty much just stated very calmly why he did it. And people are horrified. But where this guy is from, that's just how they handle business.
Although there are probably people, even where he's from, that find it horrifying.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Right.
I wouldn't doubt that. But you know what? Keep it there.
Fuck them.
Fuck them.
Okay.
Keep it there and not on the streets of London or New York or L.A. or anywhere else where civilized people try to conduct business and improve this world that we live on. Not like this, where the guy pretty much, and then you get people that will be like, well, you know, that's his culture. We have to respect the fact that they hack people apart to solve their problems. You know, people are horrified that you eat hamburger in some places of the world. So if you're eating a hamburger and somebody's disgusted by that, how could you'd be a hypocrite to say that this man beheading another gentleman in the streets is offensive to you. It's just his culture. We have to respect it. You're intolerant.
Yeah,
You're intolerant to beheadings.
We let our women drive, so, you know, that's offensive.
That's crazy in places. You know, well, we should start maybe stoning rape victims because obviously they had something to do with it.
It does
like they do in Saudi Arabia.
It does become difficult because it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to say, okay, well, from now on in England, the penalty for walking around with a meat cleaver is double jail time?
Right, double jail time.
I don't think you had a second to arrest this guy because nobody would have thought he's going to go chop that man's head off with this meat cleaver he's holding.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's say he was in Times Square and he pulls out a meat cleaver and a butcher knife. I don't think he's going to get as far as he did here in jolly old England.
I know why you think that.
Well, the NYPD would be all over his ass and probably blast him into Allah's waiting arms.
And they can't do that in England, can they?
No, they had to wait 10 minutes.
I heard 20.
20 minutes, right, 20 minutes. For the real police to show up. See, in England, they have these cute things that take pictures with the tourists. They're called the bobbies. Even the name's adorable. They wear funny hats.
Yeah.
They talk in that cute accent. They have little billy clubs that they twirl
You know what
around.
they're called?
What?
Bobby sticks.
Bobby sticks.
It's true.
Adorable. It's adorable. You know what I collect on my iPhone to calm me down a lot of times?
Right.
Pictures of kittens and bobbies. English bobbies and kittens. They're equally as harmless, and they're adorable.
Just walking around, twirling his bobby stick.
Twirling his bobby stick and saying cute things like, "What's all this then?" They say things.
Right.
"What's all this then?" And you go, "Look, he said it." And then the tourists come here and go, Come here. I'm from Toledo. Could you come in here and take a picture?" "Right then. Right then." And you're like, "This is great."
All right.
"All right then.
I photo it is.
You want to twirl me bobby stick?" "Yeah, all right." And then that's the people that they have around. Then there's the real police, who apparently take upwards of 20 minutes to show up at a brutal beheading.
They're probably not that common.
No.
The beheadings.
They're the guys, the cops, the people that are supposed to enforce the law and make people safe and keep things like this from happening. They're the ones with guns. The guns. England. Oh, does England hate guns? Everyone in England feels like Piers Morgan.
I lived in England for 4 years when I was a kid. I never once saw a police officer with a firearm.
With a gun?
Not once.
Must have been great.
But I felt protected by the bobbies. Maybe because I was 8 years old, and I was like, yeah, they got sticks.
For an 8-year-old, it's great. It's
Right.
like, you were like Oliver Twist.
Mm-hmm.
You're just walking around. Oh, food, glorious food.
My dad's got a bell, and he's trying to sell me.
Yes, yeah, he's trying to sell you. You had, like, soot on your face because you worked for a chimney sweep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Just learning
England.
how to pickpocket.
Right, learning how
By
to
my friend, the
pickpocket.
Artful Dodger.
We're gonna pick a pocket or two.
Yeah.
We're gonna pick a pocket or two.
That was my childhood.
That's your childhood. You were Oliver Twist. And the cops, all they do is have to shoo away young pickpockets.
And they, you know what they'd say?
And they shake the club at you and you go, "Don't come back here again."
They'd say, "Oi!
Oi!
Oi!"
Yeah, yeah. You don't need a gun for that.
No.
What you do need a gun for is a savage Nigerian hacking a man's head off with a butcher knife and a meat cleaver.
But do you think that the answer...
I try not to.
I wouldn't think so. But do you think that you can really say we're never going to allow Nigerians to leave Nigeria because of that guy?
No. I think there should be a much stricter screening process. I think as we speak about immigration reform in this country, I think we should reform it the other way and make it a lot more difficult, like they make it for fucking Canadians to get in here. For some reason, Canadians are the scourge of the world.
Right.
The hardest time to get into this country is had by Canadians.
Is that right?
I can't believe it. Travis will tell you his poor wife there trying to get into...
It's not difficult. There's just a big difference between doing it legally and just deciding, no, I'm not going to obey any laws.
His poor wife had to marry him to get here.
I mean, see what they had to go through?
The poor
Holy
woman.
shit. I'd rather be hacked apart by a Nigerian than marry Travis. It's a terrible thing.
I don't know if she knew that was an alternative.
Oh.
Wasn't the guy... Remember the Canadian... who hacked off somebody's head on a bus?
Yes, on a bus.
That guy wasn't Nigerian.
He was batshit crazy, I guess.
Right, so isn't the problem crazy people?
There's a lot more crazy Nigerians.
Right.
I'm just going out on a limb and saying that. No, it goes back to the Muslim thing again. And, they say, well, we can't condemn a whole... You know what, though? There's a lot of people to condemn that come out of that Muslim religion. Because there's a basis in it. Everyone says the religion of peace. Just because you say it doesn't mean anything. And it is the religion of peace. They chopped a man into pieces. So a piece of him was here, a piece of him was there. Religion of peace. Exactly. It's a spelling joke. It seems to me that the bulk of the Muslim religion is based on the fact that Allah does not like people that aren't Muslim. And that his disciples must either convert people to the Muslim religion or eliminate them from the Allah's world. That seems to be a bad thing to base a religion on because it makes more fanatics than a religion where, it's not so brutal. And then people always bring up Catholicism and the fucking the Crusades and Christianity and stuff like that. Yeah, that was when everybody was uncivilized. We kind of reached a point where we realized, but then there's people like this who aren't civilized who will hack people apart in the street.
So you're saying like fanatic Christianity is still fanatic, but it doesn't lead to the violence.
No,
fanatic.
No. There are rare cases of these abortion clinic bombings and doctors that get killed. But if you try to measure those up to the amount of Muslim killings in the name of Allah, you're going to lose horrifically. This seems to be breeding a group of people that just have to kill non-Muslims. And this guy's one of them, you know. He said his little... What was his little statement?
Well, if you're watching the video that most people are playing, you have no idea.
I know.
Well, you really have to seek out the entire video.
I got it right here. He said...
And where did you learn Nigerian?
It's amazing. I learned it from an email I got.
Oh.
From Dr. Bulabi Olagululu, who said that there's 20 mil U.S. cash waiting for me in a vault over there. Yeah.
Do you want to play the whole video?
Yeah, actually, you want me to read the statement first? And then we can hear it and try to... Yeah, we'll read the statement first that he said. So he hacks this guy apart. He's covered in blood, his hands covered in blood. He's clutching his knife and meat cleaver. And much like a movie, like a reality show, there's just a camera there for him to walk up to, a confessional, like the real world. And he says, "We swear by mighty Allah, we will never stop fighting you. The only reason we have done this is because Muslims are dying every day. This British soldier is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth." It's just very civilized way of thinking. "I apologize that women had to witness this today."
By the way, right there, "I apologize" is where most of the news outlets are starting
Stop
the video.
it?
Or starting the video.
Why? To take out the mighty Allah, we will never stop fighting you?
Yeah.
"I apologize to the women who had to witness this today. To fix this problem, we will gouge out their eyeballs." Oh, he didn't say that.
They shouldn't be outside anyway.
He meant it. Right. What are they doing out here anyway? Apologize to the women. "In our land, our women have to see the same." So they see this, the women over there. "You people will never be safe. Remove your government. They don't care about you. You think David Cameron is going to get caught in the street? When we start busting our guns, do you think the politicians are going to die? No. It's going to be the average guy like you and your children. So get rid of them. Tell them to bring our troops back so you can all live in peace." Again.
So by cutting out that first part, it really sounds like, this guy just doesn't like the government.
Just the government.
Right.
It's a government, anti-government fanatic and not a Allah-worshipping fucking freak show savage butcher.
So then do you think...
Oh.
Let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about, when immigration was starting in the U.S. and all the cultures were mingling and everything.
Yeah, yes.
What about when organized crime started? There was a lot of Italians.
Exactly.
And a lot of shooting, a lot of violence.
Yes.
Do you think Italians should have been thrown out of the States?
No. The large majority of the working Italian people were doing a fine job for building up this country.
But don't you think that there are a large majority of Nigerians in England that are not chopping people's heads off?
No, it's a change in culture. What they did, the Italian Americans that came here, and Irish Americans and German Americans and whatnot, when they came here, is a thing called assimilation. They assimilated they wanted to be American, so they came here. Was there organized crime? Of course. Every peoples have their foibles and what they do, but all in all, they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to assimilate to this country and use the resources of this country and better the nation and better themselves. What you're seeing with other cultures through this diversity are people that don't want to assimilate to the country that they're going to. They want to stay exactly the same. They want to literally change the areas that they're in and change the people.
But didn't, the immigrants changed their areas. That's where they lived in Little Italy, and the Russian neighborhood became very Russian.
Right, but that's what I was saying, where it was bettering the nation. That type of diversity is bettering the nation because it was an American version of their areas.
Like Epcot?
Yes, much like Epcot. I love Epcot. And it was much more Americanized versions. So it did add to this country. It made this country better in that other cultures were taking their beliefs, ideologies, foods, work ethics, whatever it is, over to this country and Americanizing them. You're getting cultures, though, that don't like Western civilization.
Okay, so you're saying the difference here is those people would come and they would bring their traditions with them and say, allow me to share these with you as I assimilate to your country. Whereas this guy who's hacking people's heads off is saying, I'm coming to your country to fuck it up.
And we're going to fuck you people up. We don't like the way you live. We don't like your freedoms. We don't like your religion. So we're going to undermine it, whether it's contributing to some form of terrorism, whether it's just not assimilating to your country, becoming a burden financially to the criminal justice system, or taking it to the extreme of hacking apart people in the street.
But there were a lot of people that didn't like all the immigrants back then. Not everybody was sitting there being like, okay, I'm welcoming this culture.
No one's perfect. We had intolerance even back then. Amazing.
True.
It wasn't... I don't think it was for many different reasons. I think back then there were some very close-minded people that didn't see the benefit. But right now we're seeing that this isn't a benefit. How is this benefit? We got to look at everything that happens in this nation and say, is this good for the country? Is it leading the country in a good direction where down the road it's going to be better? Or is it worse for the country? Now, I seem to think that when you import people into this grand nation of ours, they should be people that are good at doing things, at building things, at contributing to the nation. If it's a burden on the nation, then it's not good. How is that a dumb thing to say or think?
It's definitely not a dumb thing to say or think. It's just hard to establish. It's tough to say, well, who's the burden then?
It's easy. Look around. You can see where the burdens are and where the goodly is.
Because some people would say we want to close off the border between Mexico and the U.S., but the Mexicans do a lot of work.
Oh, they do.
Don't they? I mean, these are the...
Don't they?
Don't they?
So if you come
laboring people.
If you come here legally and you're willing to work, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that.
Although it's tough to come here legally and get the work, because then you come here and people are like, well, I just hire these illegals because I'll pay them half as much.
See?
Right?
Well, you know what? There are laws. There are laws for that. They have to be enforced.
That's true.
There are already laws on the books. There's our pal right there. Looks like Jamaican Mike from NEW. I remember that guy. Park your car, Anthony. Let me hack you to pieces.
What about Jamaican Mike? Who would have parked your car?
Well, I guess maybe Jamaican Pete.
I'll tell you who.
From Jamaica, Queens.
Mars would have ended up parking your car. Poor Mars.
I don't know. I see where you're going here, Sam. I see where you're going. You're trying to be the voice of reason.
Sure.
Somebody's got
to be.
No. That's the thing that's ruining the country. These so-called voice of reason, I'll say. These alleged voices of reason.
You were left in here by yourself today. Somebody.
My own devices. I love this.
It's got to be somebody with an ounce of sanity talking.
I can say anything I want. Mine show. I could really tear it up. Let's see. Can I get this station shut down?
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm being careful with my words and tone, because
exactly.
I'm ready to be thrown out of you. You know what, Sam? Now you're not contributing, so you cannot come in my country.
Let's say this show is a microcosm of the nation. Sam, you're a burden to this program. The door is the border.
You've not crossed legally.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. No, it's everyone asks me on Twitter and stuff. So what's the solution? What's the solution?
Yeah.
I don't have a solution that can be put forth in this kind of place we're at right now in this day and age. It would seem very, very mean and very I don't know, un-PC. So, and there isn't, I don't even have a real answer to that. But I see the problems.
Do you think...
And I address them much unlike many people will.
I'll throw a hypothetical at you. You don't have to say you support it.
Hypothetical.
But do you think if you grouped like people together, there would be less violence?
Grouped like people together.
Or do you think that like people would still figure out some kind of reason to not like each other?
Yeah, I think on the whole, people like being with their own culture better than commingling. That doesn't, and this is not ever an absolute. Whenever I speak, it's never an absolute. Let's just put that on the table. Because everyone's like, you're generalizing. I know a guy that's this and that. Of course you do. I'm not saying that it's every single case. But when you get, you tip over on the little teeter-totter of life into that most people thing.
Yeah.
And again, you could pretty much run with it.
When I was up in Syracuse, they pass out the brochures.
Travel log, aren't you?
Yeah, just named London, Syracuse. But they pass out, these brochures when you're applying to college, and it's the Rainbow Coalition.
Oh, the diversity they show.
But I'm telling you, and they do bring in every different ethnicity you can think of.
Well, they better.
But it is amazing when you get there. The self-segregation that happens.
Yes.
It's the most incredible thing you've ever seen. Because it's just like you look around, and black kids are hanging out with black kids.
Yep.
And Hispanic. And you realize, you look around, all your friends are white, and you didn't do it on purpose.
It's like a prison yard.
It's very strange.
It's like the prison yard where, hey, don't go over by the weights right now. The black guys are there.
Right.
And then we'll wait until the fucking guys with the swastikas on their head go, and then we can all go over there and maybe have a little workout.
Yeah.
But watch out for the essays, because they're over there. That's how everybody kind of does in school. You see that? I know when I was going to school back in the old days, our one-room schoolhouse, where the teacher would ring the bell and, right, look, I'm not that old. But in the cafeteria, it was the same thing. You'd get the tables, the black kid table, and then there were the various white kids tables, because it was Long Island, mostly white kids, and then even an Asian table where the little Asian kids would sit with each other. But it was very segregated.
But don't you think that even if everybody was separated like this, eventually you'd still be fighting with the people you live with?
Probably.
In the broader sense, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I just think this diversity is being forced on people, and we're supposed to, there's this illusion that it's always good, that diversity equals good. And that's not always the case. It's just not. Sometimes forced diversity, just because someone's different, doesn't mean they're just as good for the country, or are going to amount to something because they're different, that it's going to be a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Like when you get people that their culture believes that chopping people's heads off is a good thing. I can't see that good for Western civilization.
If violent dismemberment is a cultural thing, then I'll agree with you. That's not a culture that needs to be shared.
And it seems to be that is a cultural thing. The hacking off of a head in retribution for something is a cultural thing in a few of the Muslim world, a few places in the Muslim world. Hacking off heads and hands and various other things for various crimes or assumed crimes is a cultural thing. It's a real thing. Just like we celebrate the 4th of July.
Right.
They hack off heads.
Is that right?
Yes.
They have a day for it, or?
Yeah. They hack it off, and when the blood spurts out of the neck, they look up and go, ooh, like we do with fireworks. Ooh, ah.
It's so strange, though, because then you watch a show like Vice, and you see them going to these places. And the people who do these things are describing what they do, and they're doing it with pride, except they don't mind hanging out with Canadians and hipsters, because everybody on Vice is either a Canadian or a hipster.
Right, yeah.
And they're just hanging with them. Like, they're never in any danger, it would appear.
They never get to really show off their culture to people. So when they see a camera with some hipster or Canadian behind it, they love talking.
Right.
They love being like, let me tell you what we do. We take the knife and cut the head. They love talking.
They're proud people.
They're very proud people about their dismembering. Much like we are here with, building cars and things, and fucking spaceships.
Right.
They like chopping heads off.
Look at the wonderful country we've built versus,
yes.
Look, that guy doesn't have a head anymore. That was me.
Yeah. And again, you take things like the American way of life in years gone by and the innovation that came out of this country was not so much based on the fact that we had to get every single different culture over here to make things good. It just wasn't the case. We need talented people that at least have the ability to be educated, perhaps have a skill or a trade, to come over here and use that to make the country better. Just the fact that someone's from somewhere else doesn't make it a good thing to have them come here. It just doesn't. Sorry. You look at the oil-rich Muslim world over there in the Middle East. They still, to this day, without Western technology, would be walking on their fucking deserts with all that oil under their feet and nary an idea of how to get it the fuck out. They'd be busted-ass broke motherfuckers trotting around on top of a goddamn fortune of oil. But the Western culture and civilization knew how to pump that shit out the ground. And now they use it against us.
But aren't there probably more people in Nigeria and countries like that, when you talk about cultures, who do not want to dismember people than that do?
I don't know. I don't know. I assume, no matter who they are in a lot of these nations, that when something bad happens to them, they want to chop someone's head off, regardless if they ever have.
Yeah, that doesn't... I don't know if that's an educated point of view for sure.
Well, I think it's a good guess. It's a hunch, Sam. Call it a hunch.
Okay.
I'm saying...
It's probably the safest hunch for you.
Yeah. Well, let's say we go into the wonderful place of Mogadishu, Somalia.
Okay.
And somebody is wronged there. Do you think they go to the local law enforcement? Do you think they hire a lawyer and file a lawsuit? Or do you think they take a giant bladed object and slice the person apart?
I think that most of the people probably just hide.
Hiding is also a good...
I think most people in those countries are probably just hiding and hoping that whatever bad shit happens, they just don't lose their heads.
Do you... What percentage, ballpark, hypothetical, whatever you want to call it, what percentage of those people do you believe could be brought here and be contributing members of society?
What's my hunch?
You're just a hunch.
I bet over 50%.
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so.
I go as high as 65.
Wow. I don't think so.
And it's a hunch. I'm not an educated person.
I don't think so. I think there is an inherent problem with being raised and being in a certain culture for so long that negates any abilities to adapt quickly to a civilization like ours.
I think there are probably a lot of people that just really want to get out. And then I think the new American thing is, since we built the country, like we've built it.
Yeah.
So now people are like, okay, this is the land of opportunity. Now, as a human being, I just want some opportunity because none exists here.
Ah.
And you're saying that's the luck of the draw. I get the opportunity.
Again, yes, it is. There's only so much water in the well, let's say. And we can't take this wonderful well of the United States and water the entire globe and everybody that's got a fucking problem with their government and their countries, and bring them over here to solve everyone's problem. This is not the great place that is the ending of a board game. This isn't like the place you land on the game of life and be like, oh, look, I made it to the rich house and not the poor house in life. It's not. There's a limit to how much shit we can fucking give to people, whether it's literally money or opportunity. There's a limit. There's not this unending supply of opportunity in this country. So in order to preserve what we have, this empire, because it is, in essence, just another empire in this world floating through time that at some point will end, just like every other one does. But in order to prolong it and make it powerful and strong and as long-lasting as we can have it, we have to look at what we're bringing in and how detrimental it is to keeping this empire running over an amount of time. You look at past cultures and past empires and see what brought them down and try not to make those mistakes again. Because even though time has passed, there are certain things that are just innately human. And those things can crumble empires.
But making it more difficult to get in will probably only build resentment. I feel like every empire that's crumbled has been crumbled because people get frustrated at the fact that they're kind of tyrannical, that
Sam,
they're not...
If you look at history, an empire is rarely crumbled from the outside. It usually crumbles from within. There are empires that are conquered. That's different. That's a war. That's but empires that fall over time are from the inside. They are destroyed through their politics, through uprisings, their people, things like that. And it happens when, you start getting a little too what I like to call diverse.
All right. I just worry about people like Don Cheadle and Boogie Nights yelling, "That's not fair. You're not being fair." When they're trying to get in.
Well, I think of Don Cheadle in Hotel Rwanda, which is a little different.
What about in Hotel Rwanda? He was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
You wouldn't let Don Cheadle in here?
Maybe Don Cheadle.
But you got a lot of testing. Why?
Because I'd look and say, that motherfucker can run a hotel. He could run a hotel. I'm going to put him right here at the Ritz-Carlton.
We have so many hotels in this great country. Oh. He can be of service.
Could you imagine how happy he'd be going, welcome to the Ritz-Carlton Hotel? He'd have he'd be the best guy ever.
Yeah, he would.
But you know what?
What?
The guys that were on the radio talking about the fucking big trees, time to cut down the big trees or whatever the fuck they said.
Wouldn't be as good.
Not good.
No.
Those guys are downright fucking scary.
But I bet a lot of people that were laid out across the street, all those dead bodies,
yes,
some of them probably would have been all right.
You know what?
What?
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Not 60%.
Okay.
With your educated
What's your percent?
guess, my friend. My percent of how many people can be scooped up from Mogadishu, Somalia, brought to the United States, and be contributing members of society. 0.8%.
No fucking way.
0.8%.
That's unreasonable. That's completely unreasonable.
It's completely reasonable.
And 0.8. That's 8/10. 4/5 of a percent.
8/10. If you take
4/5 of 1%.
If you take 800 people, I will take one of those people. I will take one person out of 800 people, and that is how many people can be. That sounds like too many. Wait a minute.
Hang on. Yeah, no, that's not correct.
That's not right.
I don't think
What
so.
is it? I hate math.
You said 1/8 of a percent.
Oh, of a percent. So if I took, if you took 100 people.
Yeah, 0.8 of 1%.
Okay, so out of the 2.5 million people in Mogadishu,
yeah,
Anthony would take...
It's calculating. It's a very low number.
It's 1 of 8,000, right?
1 of 8,000.
It's 1 of 8,000 people?
So it wouldn't...
Is it?
This is like that teacher in Willy Wonka who can't figure out 2 chocolate bars.
Yeah.
Anthony would take 20,000.
That's too many.
20,000 of 2.5 million.
You don't think there's 20,000 people in Mogadishu that would work here?
Imagine, Madison Square Garden full of Mogadishu people.
Yeah, that's who you would take.
But it's the good Mogadishu people.
And then we sprinkle them where? Everywhere?
Yeah.
The entire country?
Sure.
I mean, ashes.
Look, let's be honest. We're not going to say the entire country, because there are several parts of this country that Mogadishans would simply not fit
tolerant?
in. Yeah, they would simply not work.
Not tolerant?
A lot of coastal areas is where they would end up. You know, a lot would be in New York, let's be honest.
That's true.
But they could work upstate.
Chicago.
Detroit. Not so many in Boston.
Not so many in Boston.
But maybe Massachusetts.
Maybe Roxbury.
Sure.
Dorchester.
Sure. L.A., they probably end up out west.
That's a lot of Somalians, man.
It's not that many. I mean,
20,000.
There's a lot of people in America.
You know what? I'm redoing my number. 0.1.
0.1 of 1%.
1 of 1%.
I said 65%.
You're way off.
You said 0.1 of 1.
I'm now saying 0.1.
That's about 2,600 people.
That's good.
Okay.
I believe
so that's about
there are
26, Roseland Ballroom.
26. Now we're talking Roseland.
How many people are in the United States of America?
Isn't it like
300 mil?
Yeah.
300 million. You would have 300 million.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with 2,600 people.
Look at where they're coming
million.
from. Look at Somalia. Look at Mogadishu. Pirates, fucking warlords up the ass.
You don't let the warlords and the pirates in. And the warlords and the pirates would probably not be trying to get to America because they love being in charge.
They're living large over there. But the people are under the warlords, you know? So a lot of them work for the warlords.
Yeah, but if they're happy with the warlords, they're probably not trying to get out and come to America.
But look, this is where you make a mistake. I'm not just saying people that are nice, people that want, to be better. I'm talking people that will contribute to this nation, that will be able to build things and use certain skills that they've achieved.
How much building happens in the U.S.? Apart from construction, all those factory jobs don't exist here anymore.
No, you look at the wonderful buildings we have here. We look at the wonderful innovations. We need to bring that back. That's just what I'm saying.
Will you give me more than 0.1 of 1% if we send all of them to architecture school? Every single one has to go to architecture school, and they all have to be architects.
Architects?
Yes. That way they can build buildings.
Yeah. I pretended to be an architect once.
They could all build the new addition to the Guggenheim.
The Guggenheim. No, I'm not budging on this 1%.
It's true.
On this 0.01%.
That's so few people. In the scheme of things, even 65% would not.
Look where it's coming from. You got to really look at what's going to come over, what's going to be productive. And I'm just not seeing it. We have to really rein it in here in this country. Rein it in. That's what we got to do. I also...
we don't have a problem now with immigrants.
It's not so much immigrants. It's not legal immigrants that I got a problem with.
Uh-huh.
It's this, the illegal immigrants.
Undocumented citizens.
And the lack of any cultural outrage. Like people will just condemn this guy.
Sure.
This blood-soaked killer in England. They'll condemn him. Oh, he's a nut. He's this. But they'll never condemn the culture that made him the guy he is. I mean, you have to look at this, the Muslim religion, the lifestyle that he's accustomed to. It breeds this kind of thing.
So it's more of a politically correct issue that you have.
I have a problem with, the politically correct, the lack of any courage to call out what is responsible for some of this. And there is just a cowardice in people. They're afraid to be called racist. They're afraid of looking intolerant, or other people that are just blind to the idea that certain cultures, the way people are brought up, breed these things.
But can you imagine if our president went on television and said, well, he was Nigerian, what do you expect?
How refreshing would
that
be?
Refreshing.
Maybe tonight during the national fucking defense speech he's giving.
Fingers crossed on that for you?
Fingers crossed that I hear, hey, he was Nigerian, what do you expect?
Yeah,
I'm eagerly awaiting that.
I think there would be outrage. And
do you think?
Yeah, and probably some of it justifiable.
A little outrage? Mm. I think it would be refreshing to hear a brave president. That would go down in speak softly, carry a big stick.
Yeah.
The buck stops here. I am not a crook.
Fourscore
7 years ago. He's Nigerian. What do you expect?
The great communicators.
Yes.
Tear down that wall.
Yes, Mr. Gorbachev.
Yeah.
He's Nigerian. What do you expect? Yeah. Well, we were talking about this fucking jihad.
What happened?
Guy. What happened? Yeah, this guy was lovely. We discussed it a little earlier, but again, the media is so quick to try to say, it's just one guy. They never want to lump Islam or even say the word terrorism anymore. It's amazing.
The Post did it right today. I'll say that. The New York Post covered it properly.
Yeah.
Just stating the facts.
Yeah.
You know, on the front page it says Islamist beheads soldier. Okay, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And they're saying jihadis butcher.
Butcher.
But in you know, if they are mentioning if it was two white guys butchered a black guy and beheaded him, you can bet they'd mention it. But the Post did mention it. So.
Oh yeah.
That's all I ask. Just cover the fucking facts in honest language, and I'm happy.
Yeah.